Hi, my name is Lita Judge, and I'm an author and an illustrator, and I live in Peterborough, New Hampshire. I'm really excited to be here at the Mazza, and I thought I would talk about my book, Hoot and Peep. This is a story that was inspired by my background. When I was a child, I grew up with a lot of wildlife. My grandparents were ornithologists, and we raised eagles and hawks and owls in captivity, and this owl, his name was Porfirio, and when I was 11, he hatched out of his egg, and I was fortunate enough to be holding his egg when he first started to peep. So I wanted to create a story in remembrance of this owl. The story is also inspired by the fact that my husband and I love to travel in Europe, and the way I really learned to become an illustrator was by traveling and painting on location through the streets of Europe. And for this story, we decided to go to Paris to create a story, and we went about 3 years ago. We traveled in Europe with a backpack full of paints. We spent about 4 weeks just painting on location. I painted the streets, I painted the churches, painted inside of museums, and I didn't have an idea of what the story was when I went. I just knew that if I went and painted on location and captured the beauty of this area, a story would kind of come to me. So a lot of the paintings are inspired by the initial field paintings that I did. I spent a lot of time inside of museums and churches, partly because I wanted to paint interior scenes, but also because I could get up way up high in the streets and get beautiful views of the rooftops. And a lot of my stories grow this way. I carry a journal with me wherever I go, and I paint on location, and I draw, and I sketch, and I trust that if I just create the art that I love, eventually a story will come to me. So in this case, we painted on the streets of Paris, and then when I went back to the studio, I kind of combined it with my memories of the owl Porfirio and built a story up. So this is how the story was inspired. And then when I went home into the studio to work on the story itself, I realized I needed 2 owls, not 1, because when I travel on location painting all these beautiful places, the person who always comes with me is my husband, and we're like best friends, and he also carries all my gear. So he's a big part of my life as an artist. So when I wrote this story, I realized it's really about 2 little owls. And when I sent it to my editor, she immediately said, "Oh, I get it. You're Peep in the story, and your husband's Hoot." Because Peep is very much of a dreamer, and she's kind of a crazy little owl. She kind of goes through life answering to her own tune. And he's a little bit more serious. He thinks we should all play by the rules. But together, these 2 little owls have great adventures on top of the rooftops of Paris. And it really is just about kind of the dream of being an artist and being an illustrator and doing the things I love, and all of that kind of poured into this story.